All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Jared DeCamp, organizer of the Learn OneNote Conference and Learn Teams Conference. Today, we're going to be talking about Microsoft's recent April announcement about the end of the desktop version of OneNote. Don't panic, we've got you covered, and I think in reality, this is actually really good news. So in addition to this live broadcast, we put together some helpful links about this topic, and you'll find all of those links in the description of this video. And before we get into it, we also want to send out a special thanks to Robert, who is on the call with us right now live, for emailing us a request to talk about this topic. So if you guys have any requests, feel free to reach out, and we try to hit everything that's important and relevant for you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you, Robert. We actually had another topic scheduled for this month, and we decided to bump that to do this because it was such a hot topic. But anyway, welcome everybody. This is Michele Christensen, and this is the Take Note Chat episode 4. We would love to see your questions and comments. You can type them into the chat box, which is right on the YouTube page that you're watching this on live. If you're watching later, you can add your comments below the video. Jared and I both recognize that there is a lot to know about OneNote, and there's a lot of people with us today who have valuable information to share. So if you do have something to add, please go ahead and type that into the comment box whenever you feel inspired to. You can use the hashtag TakeNoteChat on social media for anything you want to share about this event. So just for people that don't know me, I host the OneNote Bullet Journal Facebook group, and I also use OneNote to keep just about everything in my life organized and moving forward. I'm a YouTube creator and blogger at OneNote Worthy Life. So, Jared, why don't you start with a, well, tell us a little bit. I don't think you've told us. Yes, you did. Okay, so let's start with a summary of the announcement.
Yeah, sure. I mentioned I'm the organizer of the Learn OneNote conference and everything. So the announcement is, we titled this episode OneNote 2016, The End of an Era. But in reality, the changes that were shared by Microsoft will be happening slowly over the next several years. I mean, OneNote, which you likely enjoy if you're watching this video, is not going anywhere. The recent announcement from Microsoft is that starting with Office 2019, OneNote for Windows 10 will be the default version of OneNote for Office, meaning that there will be no OneNote 2019 desktop version being released. Now, you can continue to use the OneNote 2016 desktop version. However, there's not going to be any new features that will be added, and support decreases in 2020, and it completely ends in 2025. This announcement only really impacts the Windows users because Mac, iOS, and Android users are using different OneNote versions, and they're not using the OneNote 2016 desktop version, so you won't be impacted.
Yeah, so this announcement, it was a pretty big deal. It had like a lot of talk and stuff about it, but it wasn't completely unexpected. It was kind of like to have it officially announced with dates and details made it very real. This topic has caused just a huge stir among OneNote users. And there's a ton of information about the announcement out there, but in this chat, we hope to sort and summarize the information so that you know how it'll impact you. And as Jared mentioned, we do have several helpful links in the description of this video that will provide you with more detailed information about this change. So let's start with an overview of the OneNote versions that Windows users currently have the option to use. This will provide some context to understand what, if any, impact this announcement will have on you. So, yeah, Jared, go ahead.
Yeah, and one more comment on the links that we're sharing in the description. I mean, those are links, they're direct from Microsoft, so they're direct from the source. So they're really good resources to review and see all the extra details that we can't even cover in this video. So OneNote has 3 Windows options as it exists today. So you can access OneNote online. You can access it on the desktop version, most recently being the OneNote Desktop 2016. And you can also access OneNote through the Universal Windows program, commonly referred to as just simply OneNote for Windows 10 or OneNote.
Yeah, sorry, I was adding a comment there.
Yeah, no worries.
So yeah, when I talk to newer OneNote users, this issue with the versions, a lot of times it's just causes confusion. So I think this announcement and moving forward, that some of that confusion will go away. I mean, just that the way you have to explain it, that there's, well, 3 different versions really for Windows users. So Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking back actually to 2016, I think it was, when I did the very first Learn OneNote conference. That was our very first session of the entire event. From Kelly Marshall put that together, OneNote MVP, and that's what she focused on, was really identifying the different versions of OneNote. And for me, even though I had used OneNote for a few years up until that point, having the breakdown was critical, and it had been a source of a little bit of confusion for me ongoing while using it. So, with these announcements, there'll be no OneNote 2019 desktop version, and instead Microsoft is going to be focusing all of its efforts on the more modern OneNote.
Yeah. Okay, so now we know that OneNote 2016 is being retired over the long haul. So, Jared, what does that mean for people who currently use and love OneNote 2016?
Yeah, I think that's where a lot of the fear comes from. So, like, have no fear. If you're a OneNote 2016 desktop user and a passionate user, just have a little bit of peace and comfort, because you can continue using that version, and you can even elect to download it as part of Office 2019 or Office 365. The support, bug fixes, and security updates for that desktop version will continue for the duration of the Office 2016 support lifecycle. And that lifecycle is going to be continuing through October of 2020. And then it will, for like mainstream support, and then in October of 2025 for extended support. And this information, again, like I mentioned before, is taken directly from the source, directly from Microsoft. So William Devereaux, product manager lead for Microsoft OneNote, in his blog post, which we link to, it describes the timetable for like closing the desktop version. So be sure you take a look at that if that's your preferred version. That's a good source to take a look at.
Yeah. Now, again, speaking on behalf of people who have some beloved OneNote 2016 features, such as tagging and built-in templates, what about those?
Yeah, so you can still use them because you're still able to use the desktop 2016. No features are going to be removed per se, but over time, what is going to be happening is some of the best features from OneNote 2016 will be added to the OneNote for Windows 10 version. In fact, Microsoft reports that in the last year and a half, they say that they have added over 100 features found in OneNote 2016 to the Windows 10 version. So they're working on it, and they're working on it hard. This is great for, this is a great time to direct everyone here on the call. If you have opinions or thoughts or reactions, to go and add your feedback and voice to Microsoft. We have a link that you can go and you can share what key features of the desktop version that you feel like you cannot live without, and make sure that your voice is heard so that they bump it up in terms of priority with development, and make sure that they get it over to the OneNote for Windows 10 version.
And yes, as Jared mentioned, we do have that link to provide your feedback. It's in the description of this video.
Yeah.
Now, I got heavily into the tagging feature in 2016. It was pretty extensive. And then when the talk of phasing out 2016 started, I switched over. I just changed my workflows so that I could use the fewer number of tags that are in OneNote for Windows 10. However, Microsoft has said they will be improving tags in the new Windows 10 version. And sometime this summer, you'll be able to insert, create, and search for custom tags in OneNote for Windows 10. And you'll also be able to see live previews of Office files in OneNote coming soon. So, Jared, I just want to check the chat here before we move on to the next section. Oh, wow. We got lots of stuff. Okay, so let's before we get into the next section, let's go to the chat here.
Sounds good.
Squirrels Live Music says, I'm glad there's people out there as enthusiastic about OneNote as I am. It still feels like such a niche thing outside of education. Yes. Oh my gosh. We love OneNote. Jared is a total, OneNote fan. So am I. We're out here. So we're just glad you have found us and we have found you. Denise, Denise says, the comment from Mr. Devereaux's article are blowing up my email since I've been getting comments in my inbox. Very active site. Interesting.
Yeah, and that's a site that we link to. And then
yeah.
There's a second blog post written by Mike Tholfsen, and that one actually is a little bit more focused on the educator users. So you have both those resources to take a look at.
And then Denise also wants to know, what is the best place to leave feedback where Microsoft folks will see it? Is it in the user voice or in the feedback hub in the OneNote Universal Windows platform?
That's a good question. I think we
Yeah,
linked right to the OneNote user voice. The feed.
I think so.
I would say, whatever. Let me see where the link that we shared goes to.
It does go, yeah, it goes to the OneNote user, it's user voice, OneNote.uservoice.com. So
I think that's kind of like the launching pad from there.
Mhm.
And then there's a bunch of ideas depending on what you want to give feedback on. So like that link that we give, you're not actually giving feedback right there. You have to click, like, say, if you want to do education, then you click on that link and then provide feedback.
Okay, and then LJO wants to know, do we know if Outlook 2019 will have the same send to OneNote button? And also, so that was the first question. Do you know that?
I don't know that, but I would believe that it will. So a lot of the OneNote announcements that I'm hearing as far as like feature updates, they tend to be saying like summer of 2018, summer of 2018. And that's about when the rumors are, I mean, I don't have insider information, but that's when Office 2019 is expected. So I would imagine that they're trying to get all these updates with the OneNote for Windows 10 prepared and ready to go so that you can still continue a lot of those functions like the send. So my guess is yes.
Yeah, I would think so too. I mean, they're trying to keep features, not delete them.
Right.
And then the second question in that same comment is, okay, can we have Outlook 2019 send emails to the OneNote Desktop 2016 instead of the UWP application? So that's a good question. I just want to clarify it in case people are confused because we're talking about versions. So the question is, can we use Outlook in Office 2019 version and have it send emails to the OneNote 2016 version instead of what we call the Universal Windows Program application?
Yeah, and so I can comment on that a little bit. I mean, when you're like, if you're in Outlook and you do the send to OneNote for the email, you're just selecting your notebooks. You're not specifically like, you're not saying what version that you want to necessarily open them in. So whether you use Desktop 2016 or Windows 10 version, they're going to be synced across all of those options. So I don't anticipate any issues with working from Outlook, sending it to the Windows 10 version.
Yeah.
Does that answer the question?
I think so. Yeah, I think that's kind of it answers the question, at least to me. So hopefully we answered your question, LJO. But it also underscores kind of one of the fundamental benefits of OneNote, which is that when you send it or put something in OneNote, it's available no matter where you're accessing OneNote, whether you grab it on your phone later or use the web version on someone else's computer or something like that. So, okay. So Robert says that Microsoft should have built the OneNote Windows, web, and Android to be I'm assuming it's a universal or unified platform, and then announce the close of the desktop. Currently, you cannot search tags in Windows. Not good if you're using it for productivity. Yeah, I agree, Robert. Hopefully, though, that's coming soon. I agree that it would have been nice to have that search capacity because the extensive tagging in 2016, as well as the ability to search your tags, was really useful. So I'm looking forward to getting that back. And then Denise, who is a really amazing OneNote user, she says in OneNote under settings, there's a feedback hub. So that would be another place. And, yeah, unfortunately, Jared and I are not actually officially affiliated with Microsoft, so we don't have insider information. But I think the important thing is to get your feedback in, somewhere, anywhere, wherever you do it, it's good. And
yeah, but that's a good point. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. And then, okay, so LJO says we have answered the question, so you're welcome. And that's it for now. Let's get back to our next section is, okay, so Jared, can you give us some of the reasons Microsoft has given us for making this change?
Yeah, I from the outside perspective looking in, I think that there's probably two big reasons. One is to focus the development team on a single modern version of OneNote rather than like dividing the team up between all these different options. They can focus their efforts on that one version. And then also to keep, I would say the number two reason is to keep users up to date with the most frequent updates. That those updates can include like the features. They can also include bugs and even like security with OneNote. So I would say the two big reasons are to focus the internal Microsoft team and to let all of us OneNote users be using the most up-to-date and the best version of OneNote.
Yeah, and I think it might be a painful changeover for some people, but I do think that this is a good thing because just this whole version issue and people, nobody knows what to call anything, and it's like hard to bring a new user in because they're like, wait, it's in this version but not that version and stuff. So I do think that that is a really positive change. And I also really liked that the with this new single version, it's always going to be up to date through the Microsoft Store.
Yeah, it's going to be good. I think it's going to be good. And if I would, a lot of the comments that I've seen have been like, why is Microsoft announcing so early before OneNote for Windows 10 is like, quote, ready? And I mean, it seems to me that like maybe they could have waited, but it seems like they wanted to make the announcement ahead of time before the summer when all the attention is going to be focused on Office 2019. So in a way, I think is a good opportunity for us to all kind of come together as a OneNote fan community and really focus on this tool and make sure that our voice is heard.
Mm-hmm. So before we go to the next section, we do have some more comments I want to address.
Awesome.
Okay, so Robert, going back to Robert's question about emailing or, the announcement. So it says currently, if you email to OneNote, it's not easy to add it to a specific notebook. The OneNote button in Outlook 2016 Desktop is for OneNote 2016 Desktop only. Oh, okay. So I see what he's saying is that there's a functionality that makes it easier to add. It's like not easy to add to a specific notebook.
Yeah, maybe. So Robert, what I use is I have the Office 365 version on Windows, and I use the OneNote send to OneNote within my Outlook, and that pops open my notebooks. So maybe because I also have the desktop version, that might be where the breakdown is. Let me see. I feel like I've seen the announcement. I know I'm confident that we're going to be able to get Outlook and OneNote working together because that's a big feature that is being requested around the web world. Mm-hmm. I'm looking at insert. Okay, I mean, so my workflow is just from Outlook 2016 to OneNote, and I don't have any issues right now. But if you don't have the desktop version, I would imagine that if it's not working for you right now, it's going to be very soon.
Yeah. Okay, and then Denise says, the major issues I hear from most people is the Outlook integration.
Yeah.
So which you just talked about. And then another she's giving like a list of issues is Outlook integration. The next one is send to OneNote. Mm-hmm. Local storage of notebooks, and then tags. But she found a workaround, which I love, and that you can use emojis. So if you're using OneNote for Windows 10, you can hit the Windows key and period, and you get an emoji keyboard. So you can use emojis as a stand-in for tags. So thank you, Denise. That's a great tip, and I like emojis. I think they're fun. And then the other issues she mentions are embedded Excel files and add-ons such as OneTastic. And we are going to address OneTastic in a minute.
Yeah, and I feel like the embedded Excel files, I've read that is coming. The preview of file types within the OneNote page, I believe that's coming. The Outlook and the send to OneNote, I believe those are coming. Now, the local storage of notebooks, I feel like is a good point that maybe we could address, Michelle. Just that, so I was having a feedback conversation the other day with someone, and not every company or organization is comfortable with storing their information in the cloud, and it really seems like that is the forced option with OneNote for Windows 10, and I do not personally anticipate that changing. I don't know if you have. Again, I haven't heard that from Microsoft, but just looking at how great OneNote is and the way that it functions and operates, like the beauty of it is in that it can be on all your devices everywhere. And for that to operate effectively, it needs to be in the cloud. Do you have any thoughts on that, Michelle?
I agree with what you said, and I do use OneNote in the cloud. But I would, it would be nice for people to be able to do it locally if they have like really sensitive information. But I guess it is what it is.
Right. Yeah, it's tricky because it's kind of the shift of the way the world is going to the online world, but it also does open up some security issues.
Mhm.
Like for me, going back to when I started with OneNote, I was using the desktop version, and my employer was not particularly excited about OneNote, but I just saved all of my notebooks onto the local server, and that like eased all their concerns. And so if that opportunity is going away, then it may be an issue down the line.
Yeah. Okay, so then Robert is in the comments and he says, I agree with the Microsoft focus on one version, but not impressed with the rollout. Yeah, I have said that I think this is going to be a painful process. It's been kind of confusing for people. But hopefully, the end will be good. LJO says the OneNote Outlook button is a great button. I use it every day, and I hope that what 2019 might allow the flexibility to send it to the 2016 desktop. Squirrels Live Music says, do you think they will ever integrate To Do with OneNote? I'm really enjoying that app as well. Oh, and then LJO says that would make OneNote even greater. Even greater to add local storage. So do you know, have you heard anything about that? Are they going to integrate any sort of to-do function with OneNote?
I have not heard that.
Yeah.
So I really don't have an intelligent response to know
I don't either.
What is happening.
Okay, so that's all the comments for now. Let's move on. Tell us a little bit about add-ins such as OneTastic.
Yeah, so I'm glad that that was brought up in the discussion because I did have a conversation the other day. Omer Ate, who is a Microsoft OneNote developer, he created OneTastic as a side project that's completely independent of Microsoft, and he works on that. And so I asked him, I was like, what's the future of OneTastic with this latest announcement? And he explained to me that with OneNote for Windows 10, just to be clear, it does not currently support add-ins. And so OneTastic cannot be developed for it. So you cannot use OneTastic with OneNote for Windows 10 yet. However, OneTastic is still going to be supported and developed all the way through the life cycle of the desktop version. So OneNote 2016, we talked about how that support will be going on a limited basis all the way through 2025. So I would anticipate that OneTastic is going to be available all the way through 2025. And if Microsoft does ever add the support for Windows 10 app to have the add-ins, then Omer told me that it may be possible to develop OneTastic for it. So that's kind of like where we're at right now, where you can still use OneTastic with the desktop 2016 version. And if anything changes in the future, it's possible that it'll come over to the Windows 10 version.
Okay. So I think this has been a pretty good overview of the change. Before we take a final look at questions and comments, I just want to remind everyone that you can, we do have the link to share your voice in the description of this. It's onenote.uservoice.com. And I think, as Jared said, it's a great time for us to come together as OneNote fans and users and weigh in on what we want and what's most important to us, because I do think that we have the chance to kind of help push things along here. So, Jared, why don't you give us your personal opinion of this change?
Yeah, sure. I mean, personally, I'm very excited about it. I think that, OneNote for Windows 10, I understand that it doesn't have all the features and functions that the desktop version has, but it's been my primary version of OneNote for, I would say, about the past year and a half. It's so much better with the pen. The design of it is so much more enjoyable for me to work with. And I personally like the powerful simplicity of it. So I'm happy with the change.
Now, I think it's a good direction to go in. I'll be really glad to have the version confusion gone. And I'm also hopeful that we'll kind of get the best of all worlds. Like, OneNote 2016 has some of these features that I really like. They had some beautiful built-in templates and the extensive tagging. So I think I'm really looking forward to having, like you said, some of the powerful simplicity with some of the more extensive features. I think I'm really hoping to get a best of all worlds version going forward.
Yeah, and Michelle, I don't know if you have any thoughts on, so within your Facebook group, OneNote Bullet Journal Facebook group, do you find or do you see people primarily using the desktop version? Because I know that there's a lot of really nicely designed pages within that group that are shared. Or do you find that there's a mix, or do you have any thoughts on the pulse of what that community uses?
I would say it's a really big mix. We have people on all different platforms, including mobile and including Mac. So I do think the question comes up quite a bit. Like sometimes people will say, "Hey, why are your tabs on top or why are they on the side?" And that's kind of usually a version issue. Let me see. Denise is here in the chat. She's she's one of the people that posts those beautiful pages. So I wanted to see if she had any thoughts on it, but I don't see anything yet. So I don't think I really have a comment at this time on that, because we just have so many users across so many different platforms. And it's actually kind of cool because people will come in with really niched questions like, "Oh, I'm using an iPhone and can someone tell me how to do this?" And there's usually a way to do it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no, it's a great group. And then we didn't touch on it, but I think that if you were to go to OneNote.com and download the version, there was, I think for a little bit of period of time now, the OneNote for Windows 10 version was the one that would download. So I know that, like you said, Michelle, that this isn't necessarily an entire surprise, but the fact that Microsoft made a hard time announcement is what makes it worth the discussion at this point.
yeah.
So we got a lot of comments in here.
I know the comments. You guys have been great with the comments. So I'm really awesome. It's really good today. Okay. So Denise says she'll be happy with basic functions in OneNote, like cropping photos. And I agree with that. We shouldn't have to go to another app to crop a photo. Rotating printouts, hiding table borders, basic Mac functions for tables. That one would be nice too.
Yeah, for sure.
And free rotations of images, text, printouts, not just 90 degrees, and merging table cells. So yeah, that's some pretty, I hope we get all those, Denise. Those are a lot of the things you can do in Excel, where you can merge table cells and have math and stuff. So it would be nice. I do wish the table function had a little bit more functionality to it. Oh, thank you, LJO. LJO says you have done a fine job of answering chats and have provided good insights. Thank you. So you're very welcome, and thank you for your comment. Denise, who is in our Facebook group, says, I use both, primarily 2016. Robert says, I agree. We get so used to the extra features and may not realize how a simple platform can improve our productivity. So that's probably it with respect to your comment, Jared, about you like the simple, powerful nature of OneNote for Windows 10.
Yeah, and I'll just say to Robert and everybody else here, I've noticed also a little bit of a trend where people have not wanted to use OneNote for Windows 10 because maybe they used it a year or two ago and they didn't like it, didn't have some feature. But like I said, there's a bunch of features that are coming and have been released, and so maybe just give it another shot and try out that one feature that you couldn't live without, or you felt like you couldn't live without, and maybe that feature is available now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it sounds like this summer there's going to be a big, rollout. So hopefully soon. Then Robert also says, with OneNote, all platforms are not the same experience. This is my issue. And Robert, I do agree with you. That was one of the reasons one of the reasons I switched from OneNote 2016 to the OneNote for Windows 10 was OneNote for Windows 10 was more consistent with my Android tablet, my Android phone. OneNote 2016 was not consistent with those other devices. So I do agree with you. And I think a lot of people have that same issue, that they want it to look the same across their devices. And Jared, I believe that's been one of the stated goals of this, announcement in the version, issue, because Microsoft wants OneNote to be more consistent across devices. They want your user experience to be more similar.
Yeah, that seems to be it. Yep, you got it.
Yeah. Okay. So Denise says she's trying to use the UWP, that's the Universal Windows program, that's or OneNote for Windows 10, or OneNote as we call it. Trying to get used to it, and yeah, I agree, Denise. You do have to get used to it. It took a little while for me as well. LJO says I use OneNote Android for sales calls and taking notes, but I use OneNote Desktop for everything else. Yeah, that sounds like a good way to do it. Oh, here's a good question, and I don't know the answer to this. Carolyn wants to know, why is the version on iPad so different than the version on Android? Any thoughts, Jared? Because I know you use an iPhone.
I do. I use an iPhone, but I'm not sure what specific differences there are or what the exact challenge is. So I don't really have a good response on that. Let's see, possibly just making sure that you're operating with the most updated version on both devices might be a good opportunity to check that out.
Yeah. Well, Carolyn does say she's using primarily OneNote 2016.
Yeah, and Apple versus Google. Yeah, Apple versus Google, of course. Yeah, so like the iPad is a different company as with the Apple versus the Android as a Google. So that's very likely it.
Yeah, I do think that might be the source of some of the difference, because like when I watch people do things on an iPad, it's just even like basic things are just different because of it's a different device and the buttons are different and stuff.
Yeah, and you know, when I put on the conferences the past couple of years, I've tried really hard to get somebody who's a power user on the Apple side of things, either on an iPad or on a Mac, and I really haven't been able to get that. So if anybody knows anybody that uses a OneNote on Apple and loves it, I'd really love to get connected with them, because it seems to be primarily on the Windows side of things.
All right, so I think we have, okay, so that's all that's in the chat for now. Let's wrap up, and then we'll take one more look at the chat, and then we'll finish for the day. So, first of all, Jared, thank you so much for helping us sort through this information. It's really helped me actually to understand what's happening and how it will impact me. And I hope everyone that's with us here has enjoyed this episode of the Take Note Chat. And if you're watching on YouTube, I would love it if you'd hit the thumbs up button so we know you like this. And if you want to get notified and attend future sessions of the Take Note Chat, it is a monthly event. You can subscribe by hitting the subscribe button.
All right. Thank you to Michelle. You know, I really enjoy the time that we have in preparation for these monthly events. Like I get an opportunity to learn a lot from you, and also learn from everybody that shows up and asks questions. So thanks to everybody else here. The best way to personally get a hold of me is on Twitter at Jared_DeCamp. And you can use the hashtag #TakeNoteChat and let us know what else we should talk about and give us some feedback. The next Take Note Chat that we have scheduled is going to be on Tuesday, June 19th at the same time, 1:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And the topic that we're going to be discussing is using trackers in OneNote. We hope to see everyone there.
Yeah, I'm excited about that one. So let's just take one more scan through the chat, and then we will wrap it up. Okay, Sean says, I only use the desktop version. It's just better. Oh, and Denise says she's going to sit in on the Learn OneNote conference this year. Denise, I think you're going to love it. I've attended, you know, I think it's been 2 years now. Yeah. And it's great. It's really great. And Denise says, thanks for this chat time. Denise, you're welcome.
Thank you, Denise.
Yeah. Thanks for all your input. So I think that's it. We're going to sign off, and we will see you all next month. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye. Thanks, everyone.